Michael Lombardi was on the Pat McAfee show talking. You might not recognize it, but it is Pat McAfee talking about the Dionte Johnson trade. And essentially the question that Michael Lombardi had is, what are the Panthers doing? Because the value was a no-brainer for Baltimore to make a move.
Well, Ravens make a play for Dionte Johnson. Congrats to both parties, right? That feels like a good move. Chuck said earlier on the hot seat, he said they don't need a wide receiver. They need a damn DB, or they need to figure it out on the defensive side of the ball. Now they got three new coaches.
How do they not take this, though? I mean, Pat, here's bet the over-under. I mean, basically they just gave them to him. I mean, that 6th-round pick that Baltimore sends to him is going to be as close to the 5th. I mean, you know, the 5th-round pick for Baltimore is going to be somewhere in the 28th, 29th range of the 5th round. And that 6th-round pick of Carolina is probably going to be the first pick in the 6th round. This was really a ridiculous trade. And then here's what makes this trade even better for the Ravens is they'll get the compensatory pick if Johnson gets a, you know, if he comes out and somebody signs him, he totals into the compensatory pool. Like, I don't know what, like, somebody explain to me what Carolina's doing. I mean, I don't understand it. I'm sure Luke Combs is wondering the same thing. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Like, you know, we have no philosophy. We're giving away guys for 10 spots in the 6th round, or seriously, when we could have had a compensatory pick for the guy.
But David Tepper let them use his stadium, the venue, everything like that. Raised $24 million for Western North Carolina.
I'm all for that.
That's good. Good stuff happening. You trade away a guy for nothing.
But he should focus on his charity work and let somebody come in and run his football team. That might be a really good idea.
But when you hear it out loud and you look at what it visually looks like, plus you're hearing the words, you're wondering what the hell is going on in Carolina, honestly, right? If you're any team, it seems like it's a no-brainer. And by the way, Kevin, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't the Ravens only paying a smidgen of his contract for the rest of the way?
Yep, so they're only paying $625,000 for the remainder of Dionte Johnson's contract. Carolina's taking on over $3 million of that money. So for Baltimore, it gives them flexibility because not only do they have 11 draft picks still, that number didn't go up or down with this trade, but they don't have a ton of cap space, and the fact that Carolina was willing to take on that money also means that Baltimore has even more flexibility when it comes to potentially adding somebody else, maybe to their defense.
Yeah, I was hoping that there was going to be another Panther that'd be on his way to Baltimore, or a Panther that was a Raven last year, who then statistically had one of, if not his best season, depending on how you grade it. But Jadeveon Clowney. Right? I think that was the part here that we wanted to see. And do you have something else on there?
No, just Zach was right.
Oh, Zach's ready to point. Mr. Cow, take your mute off.
Yeah, so I kind of what you guys were just talking about with the Dionte Johnson trade, we're at the point where I like what Lombardi talked about. Yes, it's not what you needed in terms of defense. Defense is definitely where this team needs to improve the most. You need a guy like maybe a Jadeveon Clowney off the edge to help the defense there. Maybe you get a guy in the secondary. But when the Carolina Panthers come to you and offer something that is practically free, where they are just having you say, hey, do you want Dionte Johnson? You can give us 3 spots in the draft in the 6th round, and you can just have him. It's a no-brainer at that point for Eric DeCosta and the Ravens. So I don't necessarily think this is one of those, oh, the Ravens went out there and made the best move to help the team the most. It was, hey, this can help us, if anything, in a depth role. And if we're going to get it for this price, you might as well take it.
Damn right you take it. Like, look, I'm all about if you can add another piece to your team that can make you a Super Bowl contender, you do. Let's go even back to for the Rams at the time where Odell Beckham Jr., yes, was a piece that helped them, but did they absolutely need it? No, but did it turn out to pay big dividends because he became another key to that offense? Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then we also talked about this with Nick, and I think it was Nick, somebody who had said that that Odell Beckham Jr. was hands down one of the big reasons for Rashad Bateman.
It was Nick.
It was Nick. So I just wanted, yeah. So he mentioned that, I think it was last week, talked about that. So just because you're bringing somebody like, I think that also that speaks to what the organization was talking about as far as moving guys down the pecking order. Now, I think Nelson Aguilar is probably going to be like that 4th guy option, but You bring somebody like Dionte in to add another veteran type of presence there, similar to what Odell Beckham did for like a Rashad Bateman, for example.
At the end of the day, you can never have enough receivers that can get open.
Yeah.
And even let's just talk about you never want to talk about, but the injury aspect. How many times have we seen a Lamar Jackson led team get decimated by injuries, and then you have a 36-year-old Deshaun Jackson as your number one target?
Right.
If the Ravens are going to protect the depth of the wide receiver room and continue to add talent any day of the week.
You could have given
for
a
nothing.
before
For
you said
nothing
that.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like there was nothing that the Ravens had to give up for that either.
No.
Exactly. It's free. If you're going to get a playmaker for free, you take that any day of the week.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And they needed this. I think that a lot of people are so infatuated with the fact that they need defenders, which they do. I'm not saying they don't, but depth wide receiver was actually it wasn't their biggest need, wasn't their second biggest need, but it was on their list because you're right, Zach. Guy goes down all of a sudden. Do you trust Nelson Aguilar as a 2? Do you trust Wallace? They clearly don't have anything planned for Tez Walker this season, it feels like. So Dionte Johnson is a clear upgrade over their depth, but it's not a move that's going to eat into Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman snaps to the point where you're wondering, well, wait, they've both played well this season. What did they do to have a guy go out there and take their snaps? They can use Dionte Johnson in a couple specific roles, but in terms of depth, I feel a lot more confident in Dionte being their 3 as opposed to Nelson Aguilar.
And a guy, by the way, that was Pittsburgh's, you can debate 1 or 2. George Pickens, obviously talented player, can make plays down the field, but Dionte Johnson, the ability to get open is so crucial. And he has wide receiver 1 upside, but a guy that you can feel comfortable with adding to your roster, no doubt about it. And also players coming into situations where you're playing for something now.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think you can get the best out of him. So I'm excited to see how that is.
Well,
we'll dive into. Go ahead, Kevin.
Who did he play with in Pittsburgh and Carolina? It was the ghost of Ben Roethlisberger, Duck Hodges, Kenny Pickett.
Don't you speak about Duck Hodges negatively.
Quack.
Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. In Carolina, it's been Bryce Young and Andy Dalton, and he still put up 1,000-yard seasons in Pittsburgh with those guys and made something of a terrible situation in Carolina. So now you go from those guys to Lamar Jackson. There are questions about what the role will be, but there's no doubt that he is going to be playing with the best quarterback he's ever played with by such a wide margin.
Yeah.